Welcome to a new episode of the EDJ Whitetails. Here we go, October 19th. As you saw there, we got a little extra food source starting to sprout out. Once the farmer got done picking corn this year, he went and overseeded with winter wheat. So we've got brand new tender shoots coming out of the ground for acres upon acres. So these deer have lots of forage. Anyway, we're going to jump into the food plot stand tonight. Stick around with us. Welcome to the EDJ Whitetails. So some of our normal viewers are used to seeing me in the fall get across this, and I'm really kind of shocked because we've had a pretty moist year. We did have a little dry spell through the end of summer, but we've had some rains recently, about an inch of rain over the last week, and this creek is continually drying up. Still losing a lot of water, but we're walking in now. And the last video, I had parked the Ranger in poor positioning. Tonight, it's blocked by this wall of oak trees that you may see familiar as well. These are my outer natural food plot that I kept really mowed up so they could get at the acorns. And the acorns are about done here in a short order out in these. These are smaller oak trees. They're about 15-year-old oak trees, and they produce a lot of acorns for the size of them. But in the general grand scheme of things, it's not a lot of acorns. So we're making our way through this, and we had a front go through last evening, and I probably should have made my way out last night, but we got wrapped up in some other stuff. And fresh scrape right there. And we got wrapped up in some other stuff, and I didn't make it out in time. So we're headed in tonight. It's been really, really breezy today. Winds out of the west, 10 to 20 and gusting to 30. And while a west wind is pretty good in the food plot stand. The most ideal is a southwest wind on it, but you can get away with a west wind pretty good. And you can even get away with a northwest wind at certain occasions. So that pond's behind us, and that setup is really pretty bulletproof except for a northeast or east wind. So we're going to make our way in, and I'm going to be able to show you how nice these mossy oak biologic final forage radishes and turnips all look. Winter bulb sugar beets right in there with it. We had a whole mix, as you might remember, when we were seeding back in August. So I'm really pleased with how it came up, and we'll show you that when we get to the stand. One really good thing about this wind tonight is I can get in pretty undetected, and this is where these mowed trails come into play. Keep them mowed up pretty much all through the growing season. So they are all kind of just like almost yard grass, and I leave them just a tick tall in the fall just so it's not crunchy when I'm walking on them. You can actually walk on the grass really quiet, and it's just short enough that a lot of the leaves blow right on through it. So you can miss that mark by mowing, a little too late or something like that, but we hit her pretty good on that this year too. So fresh rub there. We're getting ever so close, October 19th. All right, we've made our way to the tree. I did spook one doe and a yearling on my way in. Um, it looked like they were over by the pond getting a drink, and it was super windy. I don't know if they even knew what I was, but bumped them. No big deal. They didn't make a big fuss or nothing. They just kind of darted to the north, and no worries. So at least they didn't sit there and stomp and snort and everything else. So as you can see, that mossy oak biologic looks absolutely beautiful. We have a full mix in there: winter bulbs and sugar beets, the final forage, and the deer radish. And then in amongst that is also the clover plus. So that way, when the brassicas are done after the winter, that clover can come right through next spring. It was a full recovery project. All that was seeded on August 26th, and it's now October 19th. We have not had a frost yet or nothing. And as you can see there, it's just absolutely gorgeous. So that's looking good. And I got a squirrel over here. Kind of spooked me for a second. It's just a little bit before 5 right now, and everything looks good. As you can see, when I panned around, there's the east thicket. There's a big trail that comes out. There's a mock scrape right there, and then we come around, and of course, there's a big fresh scrape right here under the stand. Trail that goes out that way, and the pond is right behind us. And it's got quite a bit of water in it yet, which is good because they don't want to walk right through it then. So we basically have a back wall behind us. So as you saw, the wind is blowing straight west, blowing out across that pond, and everything that I'm panning to right now we're rock solid. The one thing I don't like is you can tell in the video right now that I'm very lit. I had trimmed some limbs that had finally worked their way hanging down in front of me, and I had trimmed them back in September. And I've realized by doing that now, I lost some of my shade on an evening hunt up here. So might have to try and do a little something about that. This is like the only tree that you can get in up in the corner of this. So um, I don't really think I can move it, but it just kind of sucks to be this lit up in here. Usually I would typically like to, be in the shade and hide. But I do have a lot of back cover behind me, so we'll utilize that. And I've just basically let that become a wall behind me here, because I can't shoot nothing over there anyway. It's the pond, and we'll utilize that and just try not to move. So we're going to settle in, and thanks for joining us here, October 19th, 2025. We're going to really be ramping up soon, but it feels like a good night. You never know what could happen the closer you get to later October. So we're going to settle in and hopefully bring you some action. It's actually feeding on some of the new growth from when we mowed. Might even be a little button bug. It's just a little dude. I'm sure mom's right behind it. Browsing along. See if she makes her way out. Like I said, I bet mom's right behind her. What I'm not digging right now is she's going to walk right into my wind. He's headed down to the pond to get a drink. It's now about 5:43, so 5:45, and that doe made her way. It was a doe, it wasn't a button buck. I think it was still a yearling doe, though. Made her way down to the pond, got a drink, and then I think she went back towards the east. Um, Stood right in our wind and everything. I thought for sure she would catch something, but she didn't. Uh, the back cover that I was talking about behind me, I almost feel like I got too much this year. It's really hard to look out across the pond. But so we've got about an hour left, and the wind is really starting to lay down now. It's not blowing nearly as hard, at least down in here. This always has a tendency to be less wind, but I am glad to have the sun kind of dipping below the trees of the west thicket because I feel like I can get the suntan up here. Um, but got about an hour to go here yet. I still anticipate some pretty good action. So that was that same little doe that was in by us earlier and went down along the pond, got a drink, whatever, and then she came back up, come right underneath of us. Pretty cool. But it leads me to a point. I always like to try and talk about something in each video. A deer's diet, and I've talked about this before when we were doing habitat work in the spring. A deer's diet, 75% of it is browse. Your leaves, your twigs, sticks. I watched this little doe even eat a maple leaf of all things. I don't know how that tastes good, but it was interesting. She was eating everything on the ground in front of us. She would eat a few pieces of clover that are mixed in on the trail and then lead into a maple leaf or a twig and then eat on some weeds. And she's just browsing her way along through the timber right now. And that was part of our work with the habitat work in the spring. It's not only bedding cover, but it's browse. When we do a hinge cut, it continues to grow and shoots come off of the cut, and that adds to the food. So keep that in mind while we love our food plots, and biologic really draws them in. You gotta have good browse around it, and we continue to work at that all the time. Gotta have good browse around it in their cover, because a white-tailed deer will feed 5 times a day. Now, 2 of those times is their long trek, morning and afternoon movement, but they'll get up periodically throughout the day out of their bed and browse around. That's why you got to have good browse. So just something I've come to learn and we work at all the time down here. So I'm not going to wrap this up quite yet. The sun's just getting down to the horizon now. I'm really surprised we haven't seen more action tonight, but I'm not ready to throw in the towel just yet. All right, we're losing light fast, but that was some pretty fast-paced action there. All does. If it wasn't a Sunday night, I think I would have let one have it. But the 4:30 a.m. wake-up call on Monday morning to head to work, I don't think I wanted to deal with all that tonight. So we'll have good opportunities to get that doe tag filled yet. But as I was saying before, with the deer's diet, you gotta have that browse. But then you can see they make their way into that beautiful biologic. So you gotta have all the ingredients in your property to attract them in like this. We don't really have a real high deer density, but on the farm here with everything we've done, it's it's probably one of the better areas of habitat and food in at least the immediate area. There's some other good farms a little ways off across the river and stuff like that, but we have one of the better areas, and that goes to show. And we've got the habitat to hold them, so we can get away with it like that. But like I said, I will take a doe or two out, but it gets gun hunted pretty hard around the immediate area. So the population always stays in check. We just manage to hold the amount of deer that we have right in the property mostly. So I'm going to go ahead and probably wrap this episode up. October 19th. All but 2 deer now have moved off of biologic. And when these other two, when these other 2 move off, that's going to be my opportunity to get out of here. Sometimes on the food plot, flock of wood ducks. Sometimes on the food plot, you can get trapped in here and not be able to get out of the stand. So take my opportunity here pretty quick. So to wrap it up, pay attention to what you got going on in the land. If you have the ability to do the habitat work, stuff like I do, but you can also find these little honey holes in public land or permission properties where maybe you're not able to do stuff, especially on public. But you can find areas like this where the DNR have worked on it. They've worked on habitat and such on the public ground. On the public ground, it just takes a little legwork. So find your areas with all those ingredients, and you're gonna have success. So all in all, really fun evening. October 19th, as I keep saying, it's just ramping up. So for the EDJ Whitetails, I'm Eric Johnston, and remember to always get outdoors.